just going to reflect on a couple of things. But the first thing, it was interesting to hear from a guy this week. The debate, you talked about apologetics. You talk about the debate. You have the debate between the Christian theologian and an atheist. Okay, and right at the start of the debate, the Christian theologian says, we can stop the debate right here, right now. And the atheist says, how's that going to work? He says, I'll go out and get... He says, I'll go out and I'll get 100 people that Jesus has changed their life. I want you to go out now, as an atheist, find 100 people where atheism's changed their life. There's no answer to the debate. So that tells me there's something about Christianity. That tells me there's a dramatic change in people's lives. And the testimony of each person, the testimonies we've heard today, can't be refuted. Because they're personal testimonies. They're your own stories. How Jesus has made a difference in your life. So I want to bring to you a part of the Bible. You don't have to, you can look it up at home and check if I'm right or not. All right, maybe you'll forget it. 2 Kings chapter 7. But I want to bring to you something that happens. There's a time when Samaria, the northern end, the 10 tribes to the north, the whole town of Samaria, the big walls, the Arameans are going to come and siege the Samaritans. And so all they had to do was set up their army around the whole of Samaria and just sit there. They didn't have to do anything, because what happens in the town, in the city, is the food starts to dry up, the water starts to dry up, and there's a major famine that happens in the city. A major famine. All the Arameans just sit around, they're living it up and loving life, and they just have to sit there, where the Israelites are in there. And if you read about major famine, you read about the donkey's head was worth so much money because there was no food. Now, I want to bring you to a place where, in the front gate of Samaria, sitting in the front gate, are 4 lepers. 4 lepers. You know where I'm going now, okay? 4 lepers are sitting there. They know that their life is hopeless for them. And they're talking with each other. And they say, if we go into the city, we're going to die. There's no hope in the city for us. If we sit where we are, there's no hope for us anymore. Why not go to the Arameans? At least if we get there, we might get something to eat. And if they kill us, hey, life is, we're at a hopeless point. So they decide to walk over to the Arameans. But unbeknown to the city and unknown to the 4 lepers is that God had done something amazing to the Arameans. He'd put in their heads that the Egyptians were coming with chariots and soldiers, and the Arameans just went crazy. And they ran as fast as they could. They left everything behind. Horses, donkeys, food, all their valuables, everything. Even to the point where as they were running down the road, they couldn't run fast enough. Whatever they had, they threw off and left behind. And these 4 lepers walk into this banquet. And they sit there. And it's just wonderful. This food is there, and they're just eating the food, and they're sitting. You can imagine them, these 4 guys that nobody ever wanted to know, sitting around in a circle, feasting away, looking over at Samaria. They've got nothing. Look at us, we've got everything. And they start to get some of the gold and the jewels, and they dig holes. And they're hiding it because they've just become rich. They've become incredibly rich, and they're full of food. And then they look at each other. And if you know these words. It's 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 8. The men who had leprosy reached the edge of the camp, entered one of the tents, ate and drank. Then they took silver, gold and clothes, went off and hid them. They returned and entered another tent and took some things from it and hid them also. Then they said to each other, verse 9, then they said to each other, what we're doing is not right. This is a day of good news and we're keeping it to ourselves. This is a day of good news and we're keeping it to ourselves. How does that fit in with EDC? Man, I was a leper. And I was looking at the city behind me, the world around me, and I'm looking at everything that the city had to offer, the world, and it was famine. My spiritual soul was empty, my life was empty. Everything that was in the city behind me, everything that the world around us tells us is going to give us hope, is going to give us something wonderful, leaves us falling flat. And yet, there's something out there, something on the other side, something special. God's given us something. All we have to do is go out and get it. It's just sitting there, banquets of food, gold and jewels. All we have to do is walk to it. The trouble is, people will say, don't go there, that's the enemy. How many times have I been told, you're a Christian, how can you be a Christian? How can you go that way? How can you do that? But when we go there, when we give our life to Jesus, when we realize that our Bibles are full of gold and jewels and a banquet of a feast, Jesus says He's the bread of life. It's the feast is there, the jewels are there, the diamonds are there. EDC, everybody here, what have you done with the feast? What have you done with the golden diamond? Are you digging a holes? Are you hiding it? You have good news to share. That's why I love EDC. Too many Christians are sitting in church and just keeping their jewels and diamonds, sitting in their homes, sitting in their houses, going to work and just holding it and keeping the jewels in the little holes. And yet God is saying, you've got the good news. It's not right to hold it to yourself. Share it around. Share it around. And be the heroes. I tell you, these 4 lepers, they weren't stuck in the front of the gate anymore. When they went back and told the whole of Samaria, they come running out because they wanted to hear the truth. They wanted to see the feast. They wanted to eat from it. They wanted to know it was real. So my challenge, pastor's perspective, I love EDC because it's going out there. It's saying, wow, we've got good news. We're not going to hold it. We're going to share it with those around. Amen. I don't get clapped during preaching and sermons.
What do you mean you don't get that?
Only Ron gets claps.